Let's get to our panel, Stephen Conroy and Michael Kroger. Stephen, Innes Willox from the AIG, the industry group, says, are we seeing history repeat on climate policy, with the Greens and the Coalition moving to scuttle the Labor safeguard mechanism? What's your read on it?
Well, look, having lived through it, anytime the Greens are voting for the Liberal Party, the Liberals should be embarrassed. But the Greens really just don't want to talk about the elephant in the room for them, which is Lydia Thorpe and her stealing a Green seat. So Adam Bandt is he only wants to talk about oil and gas. So he's tried to do a complete distraction from the fact that he's too gutless to call Lydia Thorpe out. The Greens, if they were to side with the opposition, the Liberal Party, to sink the safeguard mechanism, a clearly stated Labor election promise, their supporters will go feral on them. They did this back in 2010-11, and if they want history to repeat itself in terms of the shellacking and the pain the country's gone through over the climate change arguments, then you go right ahead, but you will pay the price from your own supporters.
Michael, what's your analysis of where this is all at? It looks like the Coalition, for one, certainly coming back out of Christmas and the New Year with a steely resolve to oppose most, if not all, of what the government's putting up.
So they're saying they've consulted businesses individually, not just the employer groups, the individual businesses who are expressing concern privately to Ted O'Brien and others that they're not sure they can have the 5% reduction every year till 2030, which is a 35% reduction, or actually more than that because of the multiplier effect, with certainty between now and 2030. That's what they're saying privately to Ted O'Brien. But I've got to love this whole argument of Labor's. It's sort of like, every time someone, in the Liberal Party or even the Greens occasionally disagree with them, we're accused of starting a war. It's a culture war. It's a climate war. Well, we're all against war, so we must be in favour of the Labor Party's view. These nutty right-wingers and left-wingers are just starting wars all over the place. This is an old Labor trick. So Alan Tudge talks about reforming our shocking curricula in Australia, and Labor say when he was the Minister for Education, Tudge is trying to start a culture war. And when the IPA talks about freedom of speech, it's a culture war, and the Greens and the Liberal Party are starting a culture war. No, it's just that people disagree with the Labor Party on a policy. It's not a war. It's a right to disagree with some of Labor's policies, which are extreme, many of which were not mentioned before the election, and that's why people are less trustful of this government and their policies than they might have been otherwise, Kieran.